So, right guys, now it's been summer holidays. I pack everything away usually for the holidays. Like how you, yeah, I normally pack everything away, just with like having the little one out. Well, not the little one out, the little one's out of school, and it just ends up a bit like manic in the house. And the last thing I want is my stuff going missing, or lost up the Hoover, or in a toy box, and you know the score. So it's a new kitten. So we can continue where we left off with this VERKERK Volvo build. So we're now at part 12 and step 16, if I remember rightly, which was one of these little revised updates. Now, to get this build moving forward, I am going to go through this revised section, and then most of this, like 17, 18, 19, up to like 20. Yep, up to 20. That's virtually same as part 11 from when we started working on all this area here down the chassis and putting the tank mounts and stuff like that in. So it's all virtually exactly the same down the rest of the rail where the tank brackets need to be, and the other chassis rail is virtually the same as this chassis rail. So I don't know, it just seems pointless to do it all twice, if you will, just a left and a right. You're all going to know what you're doing, or you're going to be able to follow without any like confusion. So I'll just square that up with you guys now, then you're not watching the video and then all of a sudden the chassis is there waiting, done, complete. So that's my plan for this step. So I will go over this, step 16, and like I say, there is a revised part there. So basically just using the current bolts XV119 makes mounting the tank brackets impossible. So we send you two new M2x12 screws with the correct head named XV148. So that's simple and straightforward, literally just replacement screws in that. There's no modification to anything, or nothing's changed as far as the manual goes as regards to that. Very inquisitive, aren't you? That's my palm tree. Now these are the revised bolts, and they're the bolts that you originally would use. Now the length is still the same length. The only difference is the actual head on the bolt. It has a smaller head. It's thicker, but it's not as wide. So I'm presuming wherever I have to pop that, which will quite possibly be within those holes, you're not going to get that wider head in there. So I'm guessing that will be that. Now the little one's asleep, we can proceed again. Oh yeah, Breaking Bad, by the way. Any of you guys seen a new advert for the Breaking Bad movie? It's like a follow-on from the series where they're trying to track Jesse Pinkman, the Camino, released in October on Netflix. Get it watched. So using the chassis that we've already started, well, the chassis rail that we've already started, and we've got the parts out and the nuts and stuff. So these are as with those, and the nut doesn't go through the front. It's like the nut head. Sorry, not the bolt. The bolt doesn't go through. The nut goes in there, and then the bolt from the back. So they're just, you can see they're marked out there. I'm going to pop them onto there and there, and I'm just going to nut, bolt and washer those in, and then basically what I'm going to do now in my own time, off the camera and stuff, is I'm just going to start working my way down these sections here. Now, as you can see, we've already done parts like this up here. So I basically just wanted to go through that bit with you because of the change in the bolts, and that's all it was. So it wasn't really a big deal. And the rest of it is pretty much, yeah, the same and all self-explanatory. Just be sure you're using the right holes. Now there's not many to count along or count down to work it out, so that's pretty simple. Just make sure that you're always using the correct hardware that it's telling you. And the next side, I believe, is the other chassis rail, so I'll get that chassis rail done and then we can come back and start looking at something a little bit more different. However, I will update you and I'll show you what I've done. So that's those two brackets in place. Now what I don't really get is why they swapped it for a different nut head size, basically, because they all seem to work there. If anything, they could have done with one there where I had to groove it out. If you can see, I had to groove that part out, and that one, yeah, they wanted me to so maybe that's just another printing error, and maybe that should have been for those two, because they're the exact same length bolt and it just makes no sense. Maybe it's just a printing error. So a little more confusion. Step 18. So here it's showing to use CS3. CS3. This one is in fact CS2. If you look at it, and CS3 is like that way around. There we go. There's CS3. So if I was to put that the way it shows, it doesn't look right to the manual. So it's actually CS2. Right, part 19. Possible hole missing in SUR2L. Now that's this part here, and there should be 6 holes which align around parts on the chassis and this part here. As you can see there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ignore the bottom 2. So here on the corner, what we're going to have to do there is put a 2mm hole in, either using a little drill bit, a portable handheld thing, or even your Dremel, what have you. And the easiest way to do that is going to be to get it so that it lines up properly, is maybe just hold them in place with a screw or 2, and then just drill from the back side just to recreate that hole there. So minor issue, they do warn you about that, so just keep your eyes peeled for anything that might have like this warning info mark and stuff, because it is information that is required to like be followed, if you will. So just going through that existing hole there. So I'm gonna say for now that is it. That's up to parts 20 in the manual. Now coming on to part 21, you can see it's starting to get a bit fiddlier. We extend the chassis some more, and it's this tank here, or it's going to be some form of bracket. It does actually look like some AdBlue type tank, but I don't know yet until it's complete. But there is quite a bit of gluing required on these pieces and plates here that obviously go in and hold it together. But it does all bolt together, so I would imagine it would hold itself together anyway. But we'll go off the manual and we'll glue where it's expecting us to glue and stuff like that. So I'm going to wrap that up there, come back and I'll film the 21 bit, and then 22 is just a little bit of gluing, so that's basically building up a tank. So I can continue on with that, and then it's coming down to what's looking like the motor housing and the Servonaut motor itself. So 21, 22 I suppose we could do as a separate video, and then we'll come on do the motor housing, and then it's a case of installing the motor and a few cross members and what's looking like getting the chassis all put together. So there's the next two. Do we do that separate from the motor? Yeah, we'll do that separate. So there's the next 3 videos lined up, so stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching that, and I hope it's made it a little bit easier for you, like trying to break it down a bit more, and just, I don't know, it allows me just to crack on as well. So I've got other bits of videos coming, trails, this, that, and yeah. Give it a like, feel free to subscribe, or do subscribe. Let's hit that 40k mark, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Ciao for now, guys.